left to go, Leicester versus Spurs tomorrow evening. But we've had the bulk of the games now, and I think it's a perfect opportunity for us to reflect on the games that have happened, the player performances, some of the shock things that we have seen in this game week, because we know FPL is truly back when some of the disasters that we have seen over the last few days have happened. And I'm sure, just like my own team, your team has also had a few problems as my green screen goes. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I'll tell you what, if you're tuning in right now, what an absolute calamity that is. Oh my days. Well, everyone's seen my back room at least. Let me get this up. Oh, the joys, guys, the joys. I'll tell you. That is just like, whew, that there is clinging on by a thread, that green screen. Jesus, that's going to happen again in a minute, I'll tell you what. Okay, let's start again. Good thing this is a bloody live stream, eh? Right, to refresh where we were, guys, because that will go in a minute, I'm sure of it. So, welcome to the Game Week 1 review. We're going to try and compose ourselves here. We're going to go through exactly what has happened during this weekend of games, because we do need to actually go through so much. So a little bit of a schedule here, because I thought I'd pre-plan a few things here to get ahead of the game. So we have got, do you sell Nkunku? We need to talk about this subject because I know it is a hot topic right now. I don't want people to be jumping the gun saying, yes, you should be getting rid of him or not, but we do need to have a little bit of a conversation whether this is going to be a long-term issue for our teams. We're going to be looking at Mbeumo. Need to talk about whether we need to be prioritising him in our teams. We're also going to talk about Mo Salah versus Diogo Jota. Are we in a situation right now where we need to actually start prioritising our teams to get Mo Salah into it? Or is Diogo Jota perfectly a good coverage? So we're going to talk a bit about that. Going to talk about the top transfers. Matswari being bought in by loads of managers. We need to talk about why that's a problem. And of course, we need to talk about Q&As from you guys, and we'll do that throughout the stream as always. But if you're new around here, make sure you do drop a like, and of course smash that subscribe button. It's going to be daily fancy content throughout the next week for certain, including tomorrow's top transfers video. So if you can drop a like, always massively appreciated. Cheeks, I hope you're doing well, mate. Immortal Technique as always in the chat. Mammoth, hope you're well, mate. Isaac, Isaac Isaac, hope you're good, mate. Alexander, what should I do with Quansah? Quansah is another player that we're definitely going to be looking at in a minute. But of course, Quansah is a perfect example of a player that you cannot blame yourself for the situation that happened. For anyone that doesn't know, Quansah went off at halftime. Arne Slot came out and basically said that Quansah wasn't winning his duels. He wasn't living up to the physicality of what the game required. And Kanate was required to come in and basically be that opportunity, that blend for them. Now with Brentford, obviously we're in a situation right now where they're known as a bit of a physical team in years gone by. No Ivan Toney now, so maybe that would change. Maybe he will want Quansah in at Anfield where the game might not be as physical. But if you're in a position right now where you own him, don't blame yourselves. The pre-season information that we had is good. It's just one of those situations. I don't think you should be rushing to sell him. If you have a bench that is actually able to cover Quansah, that is going to be way more valuable to me than you selling him right now. Dom with a little dab. I'm not going to do that in real life, otherwise I'll lose all street cred. And George is saying, anyone else want to quit right now? So I'm not at that stage right now, but it has been a bit of a difficult week, and we are going to come on to that in a minute as well. Calvin always aspires my team. Think you speak for a lot of people there. Paul, hi there, mate. Hope you're doing well. Aiden is 65, a good score. 65 is a fantastic score. Just to give you an update as well, we'll come on to my team in a minute to show you where I'm at and where obviously that ranks with other managers out there. Samuel, thanks for being such a good content creator, best in the game. Appreciate that, Samuel. Obviously, there's great ones out there. If I can provide a little bit of value, then that is a good thing, of course. Biku, hey brother, I'm new to FPL. Can you help me? Of course, mate. Drop any questions in the chat. I'll be sure to help as best as I can. Aiden, what should I do with Eze or Bruno? We will come on to those because there are a few hot topics there. And William is 39 points with Son Captaincy, Apora okay. Absolutely fine. Look, do not be judging your game week yet, especially if you're in a position where you have 2 players to go and your captain. You know for a fact, first and foremost, Son is a differential. Put the captaincy on top of that, he is a monster differential. All he needs is a goal, and your rank is going to fly through the stratosphere, as we'll call it. And Pedro Porro as well, brilliant differential coming into this game week. So absolutely fine. Do not be worried about that at all, mate. So let's come on to my team, because of course it was a little bit of a hairy start to the season. I just want to go through where I'm at. So currently on 61 points. However, I do just need to check on live FPL what my thing is. Apologies, ignore this background bit, but it looks like Haaland has missed. Oh, he's got 2 bonus. Oh, sorry, they've already added in the bonus, so absolutely fine. So 61 points for me so far, with Dominic Solanke still to play. Henderson, 2-pointer, is what it is. Obviously going to be a tricky game away against Brentford, so it is what it is. Saliba, Hall, Trent coming in clutch. I need to talk about Trent on the stream too. We'll come on to that in a bit. Saka, Diogo Jota, Nkunku and Rodgers. Saka and Jota just offering amazing value there. Nkunku a problem, and that is going to be our first hot topic that we're going to talk about. And Rodgers, for me, the standout 5 million. No Oscar Bob. Of course, Amad Diallo played, but didn't really get that much game time. For me, Morgan Rodgers looked fantastic. Even though his numbers weren't great, he really was a driving force in that Aston Villa team for anybody that watched it. And I'm very happy to have him in my team. And I do think I'd be happy to play him in most fixtures, to be honest with you. So that is a good situation to be in, especially with what happened with Christopher Nkunku in game week 1. Solanke, Isak with the captaincy, and Haaland. And anybody that went for the captaincy on Isak, do not have a go at yourselves. Nobody knew that there was going to be a red card after 30 minutes. I really do think Isak was still a fantastic captaincy option. It just is what it is. With captaincy, you do not know what would have happened if they kept 11 men against Southampton. They may have lost the game, they may have won the game. These things happen in FPL, you cannot predict them, so do not blame yourself. I still think Alexander Isak was a brilliant captaincy choice. Was it on reflection? I still think it was. Of course, Saka and Mo Salah proved to be better options on reflection, but it is what it is. And Haaland coming in with the 7-pointer, really, really important there, because Mo Salah coming in clutch with that monster score in game week 1. It felt like a really big swing this game week if Haaland was to blank. So really good for the game that he actually did come in, especially for us that did own Erling Haaland. So happy days, everyone's happy to an extent. Obviously, apart from those that maybe had no Saka, no Salah and no Haaland. But I'm sure there was nobody that went with all 3, surely. Let me know. Okay, so first up, we need to talk about Nkunku. Let me dip into some of the chat and then we'll come on to the subject of Nkunku. So I think a lot of people are probably wondering about that right now. So, Isaac saying, all my players have played, but on 75 points, so not the worst game week 1. I think absolutely not, mate. 75 is perfect. Just for context, I'm currently on 61 and my rank is around 2 million. Honestly, I am absolutely fine with that. As long as you outscore the average each and every game week, you're going to have a good season. That is kind of the no-brainer there. Abdul, 75 points with Solanke and Porro to play and no Haaland in the team. That is how it's done, Abdul. Brilliant week, mate. Calvin, what do you think about Martinelli after the 90 minutes? Again, I want to touch on a little bit of the numbers in a bit on this stream to deep dive, especially on Arsenal, because I do think some people are looking at all Arsenal players, to be honest with you. So Martinelli was always on my radar, but I needed to see a bit from him before even justifying it. So I'll come on to that in a minute, mate, when we actually deep dive into the game week 1 top performers. I just wanted to get through Nkunku and Mbeumo before we do that. Biku, how to use a triple captain, how to choose players. So in order to use a triple captain, Biku, you need to come into the pick team section, and then you have chips at the top here, and you will have a triple captain chip. If you click play and select it on the player that you want, so for example, Erling Haaland currently has my captain. If I was to click triple captain and click confirm, that means that Erling Haaland will be captain for game week 2 as my triple captain. Hopefully that helps. Bigu's already used this transfer. Not the best strategy, mate, but of course it is your first time, so it's not a problem. Live and learn on these things, and it may even pay off. Okay, so first up, we need to talk about this man. Got to talk about this man, because it is a frustrating thing when you do trust a 6.5 million asset and he comes off after 50 minutes. So 0.23 XG, 0.06 expected assist. Now, I'm going to be real with you here. I was very, very bullish on Nkunku coming into game week 1. And to be honest with you, I also do think that game week 1 was not the week to judge Nkunku. My thought was that he was going to have 90 minutes. If he put in a bad performance, it wasn't really going to be an issue. But this is probably the worst case scenario that we could have seen. Nkunku didn't have a phenomenal game. And obviously coming off around the 60th minute means that Enzo Maresca is not at all scared to bring off a top player like Christopher Nkunku because they have other top class players available to them. Pedro Neto, for example, who offers something completely different to that of Nkunku, offers width, direct play. Nkunku much more of a pocket player, linking up with the rest of the team, which again has its pros and has its cons. And in this particular game, it wasn't really working for Chelsea and Nkunku, even though they did do okay, Chelsea. So what is my current thought process on Nkunku? Well, I am not going to be selling him on a personal perspective. I do not think he is worth a sell, even though a lot of managers are looking to move away from him already. When we take a look at the fixtures coming up, Wolves away in game week 2. It's not a great fixture, but look, this was the game that people were going to realistically play Nkunku in pre-season. A lot of people were either going to bench Nkunku in game week 1 or play him and just basically accept it's against Man City. What will be, will be. Game week 2 feels like the good fixture at home against Palace, and then a couple of mixed fixtures along the way. Now, the big thing that we need to remember, and this is really, really important, is that Chelsea play Thursday night in their Conference League. Obviously, 3 days later, they play against Wolves away. If we see Pedro Neto start the game against, I don't even know who it is. I don't even know who it is against. But in the Conference League, I think that's positive signs that Nkunku will start on Sunday. However, if we see a situation where Nkunku starts on Thursday night, plays considerable minutes, then I think that's alarm bells for Sunday. I'll be very surprised if Maresca plays Nkunku in game week 1, plays him on Thursday, and then plays him on the Sunday as well. I'll be very surprised at that. So that is enough of a reason for you to not do anything right now with your teams. Early transfers in itself is a thing you shouldn't do, especially when a team is already playing midweek in the Conference League. So ignore Nkunku for now. Just forget he's in your team for the next few days, and then we can reassess after that Thursday night game, and we should have a little bit more information. Some players may be sold by then. Raheem Sterling, there's likely going to be an injury like it always does with Chelsea. I was shocked to see Fofana make it through that game without an injury, so that was a promising sign. So hold on to Nkunku. Similar to what Sally said, Nkunku is a keeper. I'm not as bullish, but I do think you have to wait for now until we get a little bit more information on Nkunku. So for now, keep Nkunku until at least Friday. So the next hot topic before we kind of go on to a Q&A and a bit of a deep dive is going to be Mbeumo. We have to talk about Mbeumo right now because he really was one of the standout players, and a player that I think a lot of us have not necessarily written off, but weren't really considering because of his 7 million price bracket and the kind of awkward price. You had to pay a little bit more than Nkunku to get there, but also Eze was such an attraction right now, being at Palace, being the talisman. And Eze obviously had a fantastic game week, so unlucky not to deliver points for his owners, obviously with the free kick being disallowed and just generally playing a great game. But Mbeumo was fantastic as well. However, the underlying numbers aren't incredible. 0.08 expected goals, 0.31 expected assists. Now, I'm not going to lie, I didn't watch the game, so anybody that maybe watched the game live, please do put it in the chat, maybe a bit more of an assessment on Mbeumo. I'll do a bit more research tonight for tomorrow's video when I do my transfer plans to talk about whether Mbeumo really was a standout option, because based on the numbers right now, not necessarily something that I'm looking at thinking, oh my God, I need to have Mbeumo in my team, but nonetheless, decent numbers at 0.31 expected assists, but not the best in terms of XG. Now, with 9-pointer against Crystal Palace, there's going to be a lot of traction for Mbeumo, and I wouldn't be surprised, as it always happens in FPL, that his price does actually increase before the Game Week 2 deadline. But should you be buying him? So take a look at the upcoming fixtures for Brentford. Game Week 2, away against Liverpool, not ideal. Could they hurt Liverpool? Absolutely. But am I going into Game Week 2 scared of not owning Bryan Mbeumo? Absolutely not. So first and foremost, I don't think you need to be bringing Mbeumo into your team unless you've got multiple injuries somehow already and you feel in your gut that Mbeumo is going to be consistently delivering over these next few game weeks. Game week 3 against Southampton is obviously a fantastic fixture for Mbeumo, and if you own him, of course you keep him, especially for game week 3. But after that, City away, Spurs away, not ideal at all. And on a macro view, even though Mbeumo's had a brilliant game week 1, the underlying numbers weren't sensational, and the fixtures are dreadful. Yes, we might get another 9-pointer in game week 3, but is it out of the realms of possibility that he gets a 2-pointer in game week 2, 2-pointer in 4, and a 2-pointer in 5? I don't think it is at all. So for that reason, I think Mbeumo is an avoid for now, even though he had a fantastic game week. I mean, we maybe look to reassess when we come to game week 6, with the knowledge that he's already played Liverpool, City, Spurs away from home for the season. So the fixtures beyond this point are only going to be getting easier for Brentford and Mbeumo. And I really think as well it'd be important that we get some clarity on Ivan Toney around game week 6. It sounds like he will be leaving. He was left out of the squad. Basically, Frank's confirmed that he's going to be leaving. They've had offers. So that should give a bit of a balance to Brentford and should give us a bit of an understanding of whether Mbeumo is going to be playing as a forward or off the right of a 3 or a 2. The big thing as well, which is really important, is Mbeumo is most likely going to be the penalty taker now. So even though the fixtures are difficult, it's good that he has now got the responsibility of penalties because it means points can come in any game week that we have. So Mbeumo is an avoid, I'm going to be honest, but if you have him, you've done very well. And hopefully in game week 3, you also get your reward. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys, on Mbeumo. For me, a complete avoid as a buy. The fixtures aren't there, but congratulations to anybody that did have him. You have had a fantastic game week here. Khalees, thanks to you. I'm 88 and have Madison. Doesn't play yet. Is that okay? That is a fantastic game week, Khaled. Absolutely fantastic game week. Isaac, when Murphy got brought off for 30 minutes due to Shah's red card, which is very annoying. Isaac, perfect example there of just you getting incredibly unlucky. When people talk about FPL being all about skill, they're lying. There obviously is skill involved. There's skill in patience of making transfers. There's skill of looking at the numbers. But is it fully skill? Absolutely not. Look at this game week, for example. Fabian Schär red card and Murphy coming off after 30 minutes. There's no skill in that whatsoever. It's complete luck sometimes. And you just unfortunately got unlucky in that situation. So do not blame yourself, mate, on that one. Jacob saying, reckon Aina will play next week. I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. I need to probably do a bit more research on that one. If you have him, I think it's perfectly fine to hold on to him for now. Will Hall start next week? I think so. I think their hand is forced. With Fabian Schär's injury, of course, Dan Burn will definitely stay at centre-back. I can't see them signing Mark Gahey and getting him to start on the weekend. Maybe I'll be wrong. But it feels a bit of a sticky situation right now with Gahey starting for Crystal Palace. Can we imagine him being in a Newcastle shirt come next weekend? I don't really know if that will happen, to be honest. So I think Lewis Hall will retain his position at left-back. I'll be very surprised to see him, even though it sounds like he had a bit of a ropey game at times. Nkunku did get into screw positions. Yes, I agree on that one. Mbeumo was more of a game week 6 option. Absolutely true. Avoid him until game week 6 and then we can reassess to see what happened. Should I say Aina or Nkunku? The answer there is neither. Do not be selling either of those right now. It is not worth one of your free transfers. Kalida, watch the game for Eze because I didn't have him, but Mbeumo is unseen. He is to be sure we got from him more than Eze or Nkunku. Also, the same happened last year, okay? Oh, I see. Aina is flagged. I do apologise. Aina is flagged, I believe. That's why people are asking. To be honest with you, I do not know the answer to that one, but what I will do is I'll do a bit of digging and on my tomorrow's video or the preview video, I'll give you an update on Aina. Do not worry about that at all. And of course, guys, if you're tuning into this and you're new around here, please do consider smashing that subscribe button. But trying to aim for roughly, it's a brave one, 17k before the game week 2 deadline. We're not going to get that, but if you could help out along the way, always massively appreciated. Perfect. Paul Smith, hope you're doing well, mate. Late in, have you discussed Quansah? Okay, so I've touched on Quansah. The way I look at it in terms of that is, if your bench is good enough right now, you keep him. I know it's not ideal because the words from Arne Slot said that he couldn't really compete with the physicality of the game, and Brentford do have them sorts of players that can hurt them. Thankfully, Ivan Toney is leaving, so I think Quansah will have an easier game than what he would have done against somebody like an Ivan Toney, and that may play in your favour. But if you have the bench to allow yourself to maybe start Quansah and then bring on a sub if you need to in your team if you play 0 minutes, I think that's the play to do right now. I don't think you need to force the transfer right now because transfers are so important in the game. So if you have a rotating 4.5 million, start him this week, keep the transfer in the bank and gain some more information before selling Quansah. We really don't know in terms of Arne Slot. He may be doing this just to really shake up Quansah, or maybe he's done with him for good. We don't really know the answer to that one, unfortunately. So finally, on a bit of the numbers of the stats, I want to take a quick look at Jota versus Salah. This is the real important one for me right now. And we're also going to take into account Luis Diaz and Szoboszlai, just to give a bit of an understanding how these boys got on. So hopefully you can see this screen that's coming up now. So this is taken from Fantasy Football Fix. Make sure you do check it out. Some of the best stats in the game, and hopefully you can see the screen. So we're taking a look at the numbers of all four assets: Salah, Diaz, Jota and Szoboszlai. 3 of those playing 90 minutes. The one not, Jota, playing 79 minutes. Mo Salah with a goal, Jota with a goal, assists for Szoboszlai and Mo Salah. But I want to get a bit of a deep dive here to see how all 3 got on, because all 3 are going to be viable FPL options for our teams at some point. So Luis Diaz actually coming out on top for expected goals at 0.91 and also expected assists 0.54. Massive numbers there, to be honest with you. Absolutely massive numbers. And for somebody like me who didn't watch the full 90 minutes, very surprised to see those numbers. And it does make you think, if you went for Luis Diaz, you're just really unlucky this game week that you didn't get any sort of return from him. And to me, that suggests that if you're in a position right now where you own Luis Diaz, I wouldn't be selling him. Played 90 minutes, putting up some of the best numbers in the game. I would not be looking to sell him and go sideways to a Jota or upgrade him to a Mo Salah based on what we're seeing here. Jota as well, 0.81 XG, 0 XA, but that's absolutely fine. Someone like Jota, all I care about is him getting into good goal scoring opportunities, and he's doing that with the numbers that we saw. He could have had another goal with that header, which usually we would back him to score. Mo Salah then, actually having the highest expected FPL points is worth noting, and he is such a well-rounded asset. 0.68 expected goals, 0.45 expected assists. Really, really solid underlying numbers. And congratulations to anybody that did captain him. Unbelievable work there. And Szoboszlai, bottom of the chart, 0.15 XG, 0.53 expected assists. And I really do think that's what we're going to see from Szoboszlai this year. Really being that powerhouse in the midfield, driving the team up. Maybe not getting the goals, but being the one that is either assisting the assister or picking up those assists for the team. And at 6.5 million, he is offering unbelievable value, and something that I think Nkunku isn't going to offer this season in guaranteed minutes. And maybe we will reflect in the next 3 or 4 game weeks and say to ourselves, Szoboszlai at 6.5 was the one that we should actually have invested in. Now take a look at some of the other numbers here. In terms of big chances, Jota and Salah getting 2 apiece, Diaz on 1 and Szoboszlai on 0. And in terms of shots, 4 for Salah, 3 for Jota and Diaz, and of course 3 for Szoboszlai. So some decent shot volume from all 3 of these players here. None of those particularly flying up. Then we're not seeing 7 and 8s. But what is big here is the shots in the box. 4 of those for Mo Salah, only 1 of those for Szoboszlai. And again, I think that's going to be a common trend this season, with Szoboszlai maybe one with the long ranges, and Salah, Jota, Diaz being the penalty box touches, and of course the shots within the box. So all in all, my conclusion on the Liverpool assets is, if you don't have Mo Salah like myself, but maybe you have someone like Diogo Jota, it's absolutely fine right now. I know Mo Salah delivered the points. He got the 14-point haul, and right now we're sitting here thinking, yeah, 8 points is good from Jota, but I would rather have the 14. It is good, but I'm not seeing enough in Game Week 1 right now to think to myself, oh my God, Jota can't do anything in this team. Let's be real. It's been 1 game. Anybody that sits here right now and says to you, we have a conclusion based on 1 game, is just lying to you. We're still basically going off nothing. We're feeding off scraps right now. We don't have any understanding whether particular players are going to be talisman for their teams or not. We can only go with what we are seeing right now. And watching the game of what I have, looking at the numbers, if you have Jota, absolutely fine right now. Do not be looking to bring up the money to upgrade it to Mo Salah ahead of Game Week 2 against Brentford. I think you sit with what you got. Even if you've got someone like Luis Diaz, stick with it. Let the few game weeks run. And then maybe around game weeks 4 to 6, if you're looking to use your wildcard and you've seen enough and Mo Salah is absolutely the one that you need, then you can pull the trigger and bring him into your team. I think there's too much surgery required in our teams if you don't have him to bring him in. And I've seen enough with these numbers to think there is opportunities elsewhere with the value picks in midfield. So I would stick with the players you got. And I do think Szoboszlai is a very interesting player at 6.5. Would I do Nkunku to Szoboszlai this week? Absolutely not. I would still stick with Nkunku right now. So for anyone late in right now, we've covered off Nkunku. My conclusion is that I think you should actually stick with Nkunku. I would not be looking to sell him. Chelsea play on Thursday, and we will get some information on the team lineup. If Nkunku plays on Thursday, then that's a problem going into Sunday. In terms of Bryan Mbeumo, yes, he had a great game week. No, you shouldn't be buying him. 3 of the next 4 are away against some of the top teams in the league. He might do well, but I just don't think there is a good enough justification to bring him into your teams. Finally, Jota versus Salah versus Diaz. If you had Diaz, you are incredibly unlucky with the numbers that he did put up for him not to get a monster haul. Jota, good numbers. Mo Salah, good numbers. Should you be selling Diaz for Salah? No. Should you be selling Jota for Salah? No. Stick with what you got for the next few game weeks and then we can reassess. Because I think we've seen enough from Liverpool to know that the goals are going to be spread across this team. I don't think it is absolutely one talisman who is going to bag 25, 30 goals and the rest maybe 5 to 10. I think these goals are going to be spread this season. Harvey saying, why did Murphy come off? Because of the red card for Fabian Schär. They had to sacrifice one attacking player and it had to be Murphy in this situation. Yes, Mbeumo for wildcard is absolutely one that is going to be on everybody's radar. Would you do Jota to Foden for game week 2? No hit and no Haaland? No, absolutely not. I know Foden came on at halftime for the injured Savio, and it does make Foden an attractive asset. But I wouldn't be selling Diogo Jota at home against Brentford. Absolutely not. Let's reassess, see how Phil Foden gets on in the next few game weeks. For me, my plan was always to wildcard with the intention of maybe flipping my team, going from the team that I have right now to maybe going for a Mo Salah Foden combination and taking Haaland out of the team. The plan was maybe to get someone like Watkins in, but after coming off after 60 minutes, I think we can see right now that Watkins isn't fully Premier League match fit, and hopefully we'll get some more information over the next few weeks whether he is going to be back at it. Hackers saying, what's your thoughts on Liverpool and Man City's fixtures after game week 6? Me personally believe that you should go from Salah to Haaland coming into game week 7 and maybe wildcarding. Yeah, I think that definitely is something to reassess. Obviously a really tricky period for Liverpool around here, but is that a tricky game? Chelsea at home? I don't think so. Arsenal away, of course, but then some good fixtures around here. So we'll reassess over that period. I think as we've seen in this game week 1, so much can happen. I think we'll just decide as we get closer to the game. FPL Chai, hope we're doing well, mate. Good as always to see you, buddy. What do you think about Livramento? It's all about Kieran Trippier right now. If Kieran Trippier doesn't get in this Newcastle team or get sold, Livramento remains a fantastic option. For me, I think Livramento is probably longer term a safer pick. I do think Lewis Hall is still a little bit raw. I think he is going to be a phenomenal player, but if they do not sign someone like Mark Gahey, or if they do, that then really does impact Lewis Hall's minutes longer term. But for now, I think Lewis Hall and Livramento are good options for your team. If you have them, you don't sell them. Would I be buying into Newcastle defence? Probably not right now. Looking at the fixtures coming up, Bournemouth away is fine. Would I want a defender in that game? I'm not really that fussed. Then Spurs at home, not ideal. And then Wolves away. I mean, they're okay going forward. So I wouldn't be looking to buy into Newcastle right now. But if you have your assets, apart from Fabian Schär, I would just keep your players in your team. But of course, if they don't sign Mark Gahey, then they are going to be a little bit weakened based on the players they have available to them. Also, just want to show this a minute. Just a little bit of a graph on the touch heat map for Liverpool versus Ipswich. So just to give you an idea, Luis Diaz's touch heat map, as you can see, I'll just flick it on and off so you can see it. Obviously playing very wide in this team, but getting plenty of penalty box touches in the game. If we flag it up to Mo Salah, you can see kind of the same, but his predominant heat map is actually within the box, which is really, really promising for Mo Salah owners. And to be honest with you, a little bit scary for those that don't own him. So really good numbers here for Mo Salah and actual positioning in the team. If we take a look at Szoboszlai, one of the players that we did consider, again, very limited penalty box touches, but all over the place. And I think that's exactly what we're going to get from him. At 6.5 million, I think right now we're looking at it thinking Szoboszlai is so much better than Christopher Nkunku. And maybe that will be the case, but this is going to be a player that is going to be much more of a box-to-box in transitions in particular as well. I don't think we are going to see him just dominate the penalty box week in, week out, Szoboszlai. I think he will be a long-range sort of player, linking up the play, obviously getting the assists when he can. The final play we need to look at is Diogo Jota. Again, decent penalty box touches, a bit all over the place because he can do both. He can drop short, he can go long. I think all of the touch meat mats, to be honest with you, are really promising for that front three. But Mo Salah's in particular just looks delicious, I can't lie. So very, very interesting. Whatever Liverpool you have, I think you keep, and that does include a certain Kwanzaa right now. Final one on here, Trent. Again, very interesting. Not doing that inverted role as much as we've seen under Jurgen Klopp, playing a bit more traditional out wide, but obviously coming into central areas. We saw that pass where he released Mo Salah in the second half. Wasn't necessarily from the right touchline, a bit more central where he played that ball between the defence. So he might actually be one of those where he picks up a few assists of the assisters if he is looking to play those passes. But again, we're only going off one game right now. We haven't actually got any conclusions on that game. But on the subject of Trent, wow. I mean, when we do look at Trent here, 1 expected assists, 0.06 XG. We're not buying Trent for his goals, even though people believe that he's going to score every week. But 8-pointer, he was top for bonus for so long until Mo Salah stole it very late in the game. At 7 million, again, should you rip up your teams to bring up Trent? No, I don't think that is the answer right now. But if you have him, it looks good, doesn't it? Let's be real. It looks very good if you own Trent right now. And obviously, we spoke about this in pre-season. If you did tune into the channel, the reason why I went for Trent is because he felt like the one player that if he goes off quick, is so hard to get to. Whereas a Pedro Porro, and that was the deliberation that I had right now, Trent versus Porro. If Porro goes off, I can get him in my team. But when I looked at Trent, I thought to myself, this feels like more long-term sustainable fixtures where he could actually maintain 8-pointers. Whereas Porro, and again, we haven't seen anything yet, he could absolutely match it. This feels good for Porro. This feels a little bit ropey around this period, especially Brighton away as well. So I think if you went for Trent, fantastic. Would I rip up my teams to bring him in? Still, the answer would be no. I would stick with what you got, but I get it. The swing between Kwanzaa and Trent is painful this week, and we are going to keep getting that at times. I do apologise. So, keep getting your questions in the chat, guys. We're going to come on to them, but I also want to do mainly a little bit of a deep dive into the outstanding performers of the game week. So I want to make sure we got that up on our screens right now as well, based on expected FPL points. That just gives us a bit more of an understanding on which players just delivered in general. We're not just looking at the goal scorers. This includes defenders, for example, because we got to include the defenders, you know. So going to come into the chat in a minute, bit of a deep dive, and then we will come into this next section, which is looking at the top performers for Game Week 2 to Game Week 1, sorry, the ones that maybe we should have on our watch list for Game Week 2. And again, if you're new around here, guys, please do consider dropping a like on the stream. We always aim for 50 likes. Sometimes we don't hit it. If we can hit it today, that'd be awesome. And again, if you're not a subscriber, it'd be awesome to have you on board this season. It's going to be daily content, as you probably have noticed by now. And I'm looking to obviously do my transfer plans video tomorrow. So we'll be deep diving into that tomorrow morning. But we'll come into the chat now, and then we'll come on to the outstanding performers of this game week. If you can't see the stats too well, please do let me know. I'll try and adjust it so you can see it a little bit better. So Diaz was good, but end product let him down massively. Yes, I think that's always the problem with Luis Diaz. Very raw, hasn't got that clinical edge to him that the likes of Diogo Jota has. But I think if he keeps getting these chances, Arne Slot will keep picking him, which is really, really important. Mbeumo also one to watch for 6.5 million. Absolutely. I really do think Brighton are going to be an exciting team this year. Don't think they'll be top 6 or anything. I think it is a new manager to the league. I think they will get humbled at times, but so exciting having someone basically the same as Mitoma on that right-hand side in Minter, providing opportunities for this team. And Mitoma kind of reminding us what a brilliant FPL option he actually is. Do I think Palmer has the same role as previous season in next fixtures? Do I think he has the same role? So in terms of Cole Palmer right now, I'm not concerned about him at all. We know his game time is absolutely locked in, and they played against Man City, who are just such a well-oiled machine. We need to remember that. Chelsea weren't incredible, but they are playing against the best team in the league. So it wasn't a great game for Enzo Maresca to come in. I'll be starting to judge Chelsea based on game weeks 2 and game weeks 3. If you have Cole Palmer, you absolutely keep him. If you don't have him, you don't buy him. Very simple right now for that situation. Josh, that whole clean sheet must have hit like dopamine after the early shambolic red card. Yes, I played football myself, so I come in, saw it was 1-0 Newcastle. I was like, happy days. Looked a bit deeper and saw they had a red card after 30 minutes, and I was like, this is an absolute godsend coming in. Would I still keep Watkins? Watkins is a really interesting one right now because I think everybody knew the risk of going there. It felt almost quite clear what was going to happen. He was going to play nothing in pre-season, but he's too integral for the Villa team to not start. So kind of what we all spoke about actually came to fruition. He played, but clearly wasn't match fit. And to be honest with you, I don't really want to show you this, but this is tough reading. 2 points, 61 minutes played, 0 XG, 0 assists, expected assists. Just not good reading at all. Did he have any shots? Let me just check for you. Did he have any shots? 0 shots. Okay, so what's my conclusion on Watkins? Arsenal at home is not good, let's be real, and he clearly is not match fit. Would I sell him? No, I wouldn't sell him because he's clearly going to build up his match fitness. He is too important to the team to be taken out completely. Will he get rotated once again? I think he probably will. I think he might play 70 minutes against Arsenal, and then we'll see John Duran come on again. Is that inconceivable? Absolutely not. But would I sell him? No, because come game week 3, come game week 4, 5, 6, everybody's buying Watkins. Let's be real. Watkins will get up to match fitness. He'll probably score against Leicester. Everybody will pile in for Everton at home, who will probably be relegated by then. Then Wolves at home, Ipswich, even United, Fulham. Brilliant fixtures. If you have Watkins, yes, it probably was a mistake going there because you knew he obviously had no match fitness coming into this game week, and he was quite expensive at 9 million in comparison to the other options available. But would I be selling him? No. I would just bite the bullet a little bit, accept the decision that you've gone for, roll with him in game week 2, knowing that you're a little bit early to the pie. Let's be real, nobody wants to be early to a party, but at least you're at the party, and everybody will be attending the party eventually come game week 3 against Leicester. So you're a bit early. I think you just accept it and hope that Watkins hits the ground running a bit earlier than game week 3, hopefully. Would I keep Eze? That is a really big one, and the answer is absolutely yes. If we come on to Eze's numbers in a minute, sorry guys, we are meant to be deep diving into some stats. We will do that, but 0.44 XG, 0.04 expected assists, and some would argue perfectly good free kick ruled out. Look, everybody who owned Eze, very unlucky not to get any returns today. Those that didn't have Eze, you can count yourselves lucky, including myself. Still think he's fantastic. Is he still a risk because of the possible transfer to a top team? 100%. That could easily happen. So you're aware of that. But for me, Eze is a keep until we actually see something from the transfer market. And let's be real, West Ham at home, absolutely fine. And if we get concrete evidence that he stays at Palace, 3 is not bad. And then you get Leicester at home. And then that's where the big guns come out. So yes, I think Eze is absolutely fine to keep. So coming back into these numbers, I do apologise. I've been bouncing around like a maniac. I want to quickly come into who is really stood out in game week 1. I need to caveat this by saying, let's be real. We can only go off one game week here. Do not be coming to conclusions that a particular player is essential for your teams. We're not having that kind of assessment here, but we can look at what has actually happened at least. So, Trent, first and foremost, only plays 77 minutes, but 3 attempted assists, 1 XA, which is expected assists, and 11.22 expected FPL points. So basically, based on that, he should have got a clean sheet, should have got some bonus, and he should have picked up an assist, basically, is what they're saying. And he got everything barring that assist. Looks great for owners right now. Yes, could he get rotated at times with Connor Bradley while he builds up his fitness like he did in this game? Absolutely. But we've seen here, and we know historically, 75 minutes is enough for Trent to do enough damage. If you own him, you keep him. If you don't have him, I would just grin and bear it for now, unless you're going for a very early wildcard. Souček, I mean, 5 points, but was expected to get 9.84 because of his 1.47 expected goals. Would I be ripping up my team for Souček? Absolutely not. But one to monitor under a new manager at West Ham. Very unlucky not to go big. Now, we've already touched on Salah and Diaz, both delivering very similar expected FPL points, and Diaz being the real big swing here. So as you can see, Mo Salah was expected to get 9.46 points, ended up getting 14, so really overperformed if you look at it that way. Diaz, on the other hand, massively underperformed. Expected 8.85 points, only got 3. So again, we've spoken about this. If you have Luis Diaz, you got really unlucky. Let's be real here. So unlucky on that one. And guys, I forgot to mention, I haven't actually asked you guys, how many points did you get? Can you put them in the chat right now? I want to get a bit of an idea on where people are at. Has anybody broke the 80-point barrier? So drop in the chat right now how many points you've scored. Just for a bit of reference, I am currently on 61 points. So let me know in the chat right now, how many points did you get? Just fire off your scores. It'd be good to see if anybody has broken the 80 points. I'm sure a few people definitely have out there, but it'd be good to see in your teams. And while you're doing that, guys, if you could also just vote in this poll and just let me know who is your current Game Week 2 captain. I just want to get this running in the background a minute, because I'll put my team up on your screens just so you can see. Sorry, I'll put the fixtures up for Game Week 2. Take a look at these fixtures right now, guys. Let me know who is your current Game Week 2 captain. Obviously, we're going to drop Haaland in the chat. We're going to put Mo Salah in the chat. I think Eze could be up for deliberation, possibly. I also think someone like a Son could also be a conversation starter. And if somebody on that poll, guys, is not possibly your captain for Game Week 2, could you just let me know in the chat? Could you just put maybe like captain and the person? That'd be really good to know. But I can see some big scores already. I can see 65 from Benjamin, great score. George with 55. Pedro with 73, cracking work. Tretnik with 45. Ramps with 66. Safsy 2 with 78. Actually, Ravin with 74 with 2 to play. I would love to be in your situation right now. Chijon with 65. Will Man United with 56 with Poro to play tomorrow. So maybe 57. No, I'm joking. Hopefully you break the 60 tomorrow. Mr. Ogsley with 66. Bill with 70. Adam with 77. NH with 83. Jack, no chance. 98. That's huge. That's a big one. Wow. 98. That's massive. Luke with 39. Big scores. Keep putting them in. SB with 101 with the bench boost. Man, that is brave. I know Planet FPL James also activated his bench boost, and he had some unbelievable players. So he had a cracking week as well. Make sure you do check that out. That is one to follow, because he could be in the top. He could be in the top 1K come Game Week 2, which will be really exciting. Definitely a clickbait thumbnail there. But let's come back into this a minute, guys. So we touched on Liverpool. I've spoken about it already. If you have Salah, happy days. If you have Diaz, you keep. If you have Jota, you keep. I don't think you need to upgrade those to Mo Salah right now. Now, obviously, Bukayo Saka, the golden boy, delivered 12 points, expected 8.82. So did overperform, but 5 shots, some of the most of anybody, really. Only Eze, Bruno Fernandes, and basically Eze and Bruno Fernandes were the only two to have more shots than Saka. And that really does say something about Eze there with 7 shots. That is massive in that game. Definitely one to monitor there. But coming back to Bukayo Saka in terms of his FPL points, slightly overperformed, but look at these numbers. 0.5 XG, 0.59 expected assists, really solid numbers. And it does kind of show you pay for what you get here. If we compare this to Odegaard right now, here, and it'd be good actually to look at Arsenal in general while we're here. Now, of course, it's only one game. We can't come to any conclusions right now, but looking at these numbers right now, 5 shots for Saka, 5 shots for Havertz, which are really, really solid. XG for Saka at 0.5, but Havertz actually leading the way at 0.66, but let's be real, that header would have been a huge factor in that XG. XA for Saka, as we've spoken about. Martinelli's numbers not as impressive, 0.09 XG, 0.51 expected assists, so only having one shot in the game. I spoke about this in pre-season. Martinelli is a perfect example of a player that you don't need to be the first to own. You just don't. His ownership is going to be low enough that if he does well in the opening few game weeks, it isn't going to hurt your rank. And a player that we haven't seen the same player that we saw a couple of years ago. So with that issue, the same as Marcus Rashford, you don't have to be the first to be there because there are better options available. But once we see that uptake in numbers, which we haven't seen right now in game week 1, but if we do from a considerable basis over the next few weeks, then we can look to invest in a player like that. And finally, Odegaard, 1 shot, which is a bit worrying, 0.02 XG, 0.06 expected assists. Now again, I'm not coming to conclusions right now, but that's a big swing, especially when you have got Havertz, who is 0.5 million cheaper as a forward playing as the 9. So something to monitor in the next few weeks. I was expecting Odegaard to operate in much higher positions, but they haven't recruited as we were expecting yet. So maybe things will change once they do bring in Calafiori into left back, who comes into midfield maybe and helps the build up. But Zinchenko was doing that as well. So a little bit concerning about Odegaard, but we will monitor that situation nonetheless. So let's just come out to the rest of the fixtures here, guys. Just a few more names I want to flag. Matoma, 1.21 XG, phenomenal. One to monitor 100% in our teams. But Brighton's fixtures are a little bit mixed, so I think he's just one to monitor for now. Visser, very good. With Ivan Toney going, we're expecting him to be the forward, and he's only 6 million. This is definitely one to completely avoid for the next few weeks, similar to that of Mbeumo, because the fixtures are so difficult. But once we get to game week 6, we could easily go for an Mbeumo Visser double up if they continue with these brilliant underlying numbers. Spoke about Havertz, Bruno Fernandes, just incredibly lucky for those managers that didn't go there. Sorry, that went there. Should have deserved some points based on what we saw. And finally, we are coming into Matswari, and this is where I have a little bit of an issue. So, good game week for Matswari. 7.8 expected FPL points, got 8 points. Good on the bonus points, as we know. However, coming into game week 2, if we take a look at the most bought player, it is by far and away Matswari at 144,000 transfers in. Now, the beauty of Fantasy Football Fix, and another reason why you guys have to go check it out, is we should have this. So, looking at the transfers for Matswari here, if we come into here, we can see 34% of transfers are Kwanzaa to Matswari, Mikalenko to Matswari 11%, and Barco to Matswari at 7.2%. So basically, 34% of all transfers to Matswari are coming from Kwanzaa. That's basically what it means. Now, what's my concern here? Well, looking at the fixtures for Matswari coming up, Brighton away does not fill me with confidence off the back of what we saw. I think it's an attacking Brighton team that could score against Man United for sure. Then they play against Liverpool at home. We're all the assumption right now that Liverpool are a good attacking outfit. Then they got Southampton away and Palace away. I think that could be a clean sheet. I would be surprised if that was a clean sheet. Then they come up against Spurs, Villa. I don't really get the hype right now with Matswari. He's getting a lot of love. 4.5 million is a great price point. But do I look at those fixtures and think to myself, oh my God, I need this guy on my team? I get it. If you sat there with Kwanzaa, you probably are panicking a little bit and you're looking to go elsewhere. But I don't know whether Matswari is the answer right now. I think Man United will be better than what they were last season defensively because they have a bit of stability now. De Ligt, Matswari, a returning Martinez, Dallo playing at left back with a bit more vigour about him than what we've had available. I do think Matswari is a good FPL option, but do I think he's justifiable with 140,000 transfers in coming into game week 2? I think the answer is no right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, but I'm very surprised to see Matswari bought by so many managers coming into this game week. I'm very surprised to see Watkins being sold by so many when we see his fixtures coming up and game week 3 onwards looking sensational. Right, I want to come into the chat right now, guys, because I've missed out on a lot. And I wanted to go run this to about 9 p.m. UK time, so we're going to go for another 5 minutes or so, and then we will wrap things up. But as always, as I said, guys, if you are enjoying it, be massively appreciative if you could drop a like, and of course, smash that subscribe button. It'd be awesome to have you guys on board this season. As I said, trying to aim for 17k before game week 2. We have about 6 days to get there. I think we're about 300 short, but if you're watching this right now, you're enjoying it, and you want to stick around for the season, or at least the next few weeks, please do consider smashing that subscribe button. It's always massively appreciated. So let's come into this right now. Rico Lewis looked sensational, let's be real. And with a great game against Ipswich in game week 2, he's definitely a viable option. But we need to remember Kyle Walker will be waiting in the wings eventually. It feels like a short-term good option. Game week 2, you'll probably get him. Game week 3 isn't ideal because Man City do have a bit more of a trickier fixture in game week 3. Oh, well, let's be real, it's West Ham. So short term, I really like Rico Lewis, but you do know that you are asking for a little bit of trouble in your teams just because Kyle Walker can come in at any point. But I really do like Rico Lewis, and logically, I do think he deserves a start in this team, but you know the problems with going for him. That is the only thing I will say. Bruno Blanco was something else. Yes, just unlucky for managers right now. Chris was saying Cole Palmer. Yeah, it wasn't a good game, was it at all? Do I need Haaland for next week? Jack, I think the answer is no. I think Haaland's going to require so much surgery in your team. There's no chance you've got 6 million knocking in the bank to upgrade your forward to him, which means it's going to incur a points hit for you to go there. Just sit with what you got, mate. I think you just let it be. This was always going to be a case for Haaland. He could go well, just accept with the team you've gone for as we speak. Nkunku to Eze is going to be a popular transfer this game week. I think it is, but I still think sticking with Nkunku is the right move, unless Nkunku plays 90 minutes on Thursday night in their Conference League game and he looks awful. Then we might have to consider our options. What do I think about Haaland triple captain? I like it. Now, the reason why I like it is because years gone by, double game weeks have been so prominent that holding off your triple captain until later on in the season was just the most logical move. But this season, because of the way the cup competitions have fallen and the way that they've changed the cups, we're not going to get as many double game weeks. We will get some, but not the huge ones and the amount that we've had. So we might get a season where we get no double game week for some of the top teams, and therefore our Salahs, our Haalands, we might not have triple captaincy options available in a double game week for them. So Ipswich at home, barring maybe Southampton at home and maybe an Everton at home, it's probably one of the best home games that you could get for a triple captaincy. So I'm not against it at all. If some managers want to go there for a triple captain or Erling Haaland, who am I to say no? We've seen it enough times last season that he can deliver a hat-trick in any game, especially those at Etihad against bottom half teams. We saw it regularly. Feels like it could come again in game week 2, so I don't mind it at all if people want to go there. Mikalenko out. Would I be selling him right now? Looking at the fixtures coming up, Everton. Spurs away in game week 2, not good. Bournemouth at home in game week 3, a bit better. I'd probably keep him unless we have got news that he's out, and I maybe have missed that if he's injured. I do apologise. I will check that out for you. What about Robertson? Can we see the heat map on Robertson? Let me try and get that for you a minute, mate. Robertson's heat map is looking something like that. So just to give you a bit of comparison here, obviously this is Robertson and this is Trent coming in on the other side there. So, I mean, quite similar, we would argue here. Robertson there, Alexander-Arnold there. So Robertson again, Not necessarily being completely the marauding left back that we've seen in years gone by, but still an okay touch heat map, quite similar to Trent's, it's worth noting. Would I be buying him? Probably not, though. I think we just sit with what we got. FPL Bateman, hope you're well, mate. Hello, Nacho. Last few minutes before triple captain Arsenal clean sheet secured was most stressful than sitting exams. 100%. Good work, by the way, going for triple Arsenal clean sheet. That is great work. That feels like it's just going to be a source for points throughout this season once again. It's worth noting, though, what a save by Raya. That would have saved a lot of us out there. It was an incredible, almost David Seaman-esque save. If anyone's missed it, do check it out. It is one of those saves that might be tough to beat this season already. It was very, very good. Okay, just want to give you guys a quick preview. I am going to be doing my transfer plans video tomorrow, where I know I'm talking about players not making, managers not making moves, but I still would recommend tuning in because I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive on the problem players that we have and maybe the alternatives available to us. But this is how my team is looking just to conclude this live stream. So right now we've got Henderson at home against West Ham. Hopefully Mark Gay can stay, just boost that Crystal Palace defence. Saliba away against Aston Villa. Robinson at home against Leicester. Trent at home against Brentford. And for those asking against Robinson, didn't really put up any numbers against Man United, but was on for 3 or 2 bonus before that goal was conceded. So he was doing the good stuff behind the scenes, which is really, really important. Midfield, we've got Smith Rowe, Nkunku, Jota and Saka. And in terms of Smith Rowe's numbers, pretty dreadful, coming off on the 63rd minute as well, but we kind of knew that as he builds up his fitness. Leicester was always the game that we really wanted him for, so hopefully we get some considerable game time there, and he does deliver the goods. Right now, Nkunku, of course, is the issue, but we'll address that later on in the week once Chelsea are played on Thursday night. Jota and Saka, absolutely fine for their respective fixtures. And then, of course, we've got Haaland with the captaincy, maybe triple captain. Isak away against Bournemouth, and then Solanke at home against Everton. And hopefully we will come off the back of a hat-trick in game week 1 for Solanke. On the bench, Rodgers at home against Arsenal. But as I mentioned, yes, the underlying numbers weren't fantastic, but he was good. Let's be real. He was very good in that game. He looked so powerful in that midfield. And he made Watkins look like a child at times with his physicality. So Watkins has a lot to go to kind of get his match fitness back. When we looked at how good Rodgers was, it kind of was chalk and cheese right now. And it makes you think when Aston Villa get Watkins fully functioning, those two going through central areas, it's going to be a problem for a lot of teams. So I think Rodgers is here to stay, and I'm really glad I picked him up at 5 million. Hall currently on the bench, away against Bournemouth, but I could be inclined to bring him in for Saliba. But we saw this last season, and Arsenal in any fixture are good enough to keep a clean sheet. So for now, I'm sticking with Saliba. And Barco, let's be real, less said about Barco, the better. We all thought that the problem would come with Barco maybe around game week 4 if they signed a new left back. They haven't even signed somebody and he played 0 minutes, which is a concern. So Barco, I'm not selling him, but be a little bit cautious that there could be problems afoot for Barco owners. I just want to quickly check here if there's any potential price changes happening tonight, because we need to remember that is happening soon. But based on what we're seeing, no price changes coming up anytime soon. Most likely tomorrow will be the first one, so I don't think you have to stress too much about that. About that one. Okay, so to conclude, we're going to do a 5-minute Q&A before we wrap things up. Going to end the poll as well. 76% are saying they're captain Haaland in game week 2, 22 on Salah, 2% on Son. Thank you guys for voting in that one. Really appreciate it. And I'm just going to put another one in to conclude the last 5 minutes, but this is your 5-minute warning. Get your questions in the chat. I will answer them between now and 9:10, so get going. I just want to put it here. Are you debating game week 2 TC, which is going to be triple captain? Yes. We're going to put yes, doing it. Debating it. Hell no. Hello no. Hell no. Let me know on there, guys. And again, just a final shout out. If you are enjoying this, please do consider smashing that subscribe button. Always massively appreciated. Right, let's get into this. So, Mint saying Rashford game week 2 start. Probably. I think he probably will. Was he good in the fixture? Let's take a look at his numbers. Pretty poor numbers, but played the full 90. I think he will play, but again, similar to the Martinelli boat, I don't want to be the first to own him. Let him get back up to form if he ever does. Should I sell Aina? He has a knock and I only have Saliba Shea. This is a perfect example of you sitting tight right now. Let the week pan out. Wait for the press conferences to come out. Get more of an understanding on what happens with Aina. Hopefully we get a positive update. If we don't, then we can reassess. If your squad is really bare thin, then maybe making a transfer is the right move. But for now, mate, do not make an early transfer. Josh said, I'm playing 4-3-3, currently game week 2. Feels weird, but fixtures are so good. Yeah, don't mind that at all, mate. Gabriel's putting a good question here. Wood or Smith Rowe for game week 2 start? So Wood is absolutely locked in for minutes. Smith Rowe I still think is good for minutes, but the early substitution is always going to be an issue. As of right now, I probably am leaning towards Chris Wood. I know it's a bit controversial, but at home against Leicester, it's that sort of thing where if you own Smith Rowe, why did you own him if you weren't going to play him in game week 2? So even though I think the answer probably will be Chris Wood, let's be real, you're starting Smith Rowe, because if you don't start him against Leicester, when are you ever going to start him? But we'll get a bit more information tomorrow night. Who knows? Steve Cooper may have turned this Leicester into prime AC Milan. We don't know the answer. Would you bench any of Trent, Porro or Munoz for Robinson in game week 2? Well, you never bench Trent if you own him. That is just an absolute FPL law. You cannot bench Trent if you're paying 7 million for him at any point. Porro at home against Everton, I absolutely would not bench him unless I was to see something else. So it comes down to basically Munoz versus Robinson. Munoz at home against West Ham. Robinson with a great fixture at home against Leicester. Now, in terms of the numbers that Munoz put in, pretty poor numbers today. I personally think the fixture for Fulham is better than that of Crystal Palace's. So I'm going to say you start Robinson instead of Munoz, personally. Should I wildcard if I have 4 or 5 players to switch? Gunner, I wouldn't advise it right now. I think try and get a team out, see how it looks your starting 11, and then if it is really bad, maybe make a transfer rather than a wildcard this early. Gabriel Porro for game week 2, Porro to start, absolutely. Krutz, should I swap Barco for a 4 million defender? Consider Taylor Harwood. He's a guaranteed start, having played 43 matches. No. Do not be using a free transfer to go from Barco to Harwood Bellis, a player that you probably are never going to start. Just don't do it, mate. It's a waste of a transfer. Dan Burn for Mikalenko. So Adam, you're saying sell Mikalenko to bring in Dan Burn? I think the answer is no, to be honest with you. Fabian Schär being out is only going to weaken the Newcastle defence, especially if they don't sign Mark Gahey. And the fixtures coming up, I don't even think they scream clean sheets for Newcastle, let's be real. I think that can be a tricky game. That's a tough game. Wolves have got the firepower at times. I personally don't think Dan Burn's the answer right now for your teams. Sian's in, am I making a video tomorrow about Aina? I'm going to be honest, probably not, because I think we'll get more information during the week about Aina, whether we should be selling him or not, because Nuno should come out and give us an update on his fitness, and that's probably the only thing we are waiting on right now. So I would love to come here right now and say you have to sell Aina, but I think the answer is going to be, even if Aina's ruled out for the weekend, do you have a bench strong enough to just basically accommodate Aina for a few weeks? That would be my priority right now rather than selling it. Bowen's numbers were... Bowen's numbers were, that's 2023, 24. Pretty bad. Again, I need to see something from Bowen before actually investing in him personally. So I want to see a bit before justifying that price point. And then if we see it, then we can go there. Sorry guys, I'm clicking everywhere. Let's get back to that. Okay, I'm going to do a quick fire. Gordon to Jota already have Salah. No, I would stick with Gordon if you already have Salah especially. Would I transfer Barco to 4.5 to avoid price drop? No, I wouldn't. I would stick with Barco. Not that you need to start him, but I would just start other players. I don't think you need to sell him and waste a transfer. Nkunku or João Pedro to start in game week 2. Right now, we're going to have to say João Pedro, to be honest. He was very unlucky not to get any returns. If we look at João Pedro's numbers, hopefully it's on here. If not, I will get it up on another screen. Back we go. Back we go. And again, guys, I'm using Fantasy Football Fix here, like one of the best tools around. So numbers aren't incredible, but he did hit the post, picked up some good areas, 82 minutes. I'm going to be real with you. I'll be tempted to start João Pedro over Nkunku. But again, Nkunku will play on Thursday night. Whatever his minutes are will be something to monitor. Best 4.5 million defender to swap with Mykolenko for. Adam, I may have missed it. Is Mykolenko injured? If he is, 4.5 million to invest in a defender long term. I actually be more inclined to maybe say Konsa as a pick, because Villa's fixtures start to turn for the good longer term after this game week, if you can afford to bench Konsa this week. Chaz FPL just subbed. Thank you so much, mate. Is Quansah a sell or wait to see? Wait and see for Quansah. I don't think it is a desperate sell right now. Is Savio nailed? No, because he's just gone off injured, so I wouldn't be going there. If I'm benching Gabriel, should I sell him? No, because in game week 3, he has a fantastic fixture, so you're just going to want him straight back in your team. Quansah or Anderson? Well, I think it has to be Anderson now, because Quansah is too much of a rotation risk. Possible haul or burn for 4.5 as a swap for Mykolenko. Adam, the problem with Newcastle, I don't love the upcoming fixtures, to be honest with you, from a clean sheet perspective. Anyone watch the game knows Munoz was excellent. Yeah, that's a really good point, AB Gaming. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to watch the game, so numbers can only do so much. And I am a massive advocate on the eye test and stats alongside one another. For somebody who plays football still, I just personally think that stats are good, but when you are just completely analytical, you kind of take a little bit of the essence of the game out, and there is something to be said about watching football in general. Sometimes you just know when a player's on it. I'm not saying analytical, stats-driven FPL is wrong. It absolutely isn't. I use it all the time, but I like to have a bit of a balance of the both. So thank you for letting me know on that, because I will look back at the highlights on Munoz, see what we can see that maybe the stats don't suggest, because that is a big part of the game as well. He's saying, why is everyone worried about Nkunku? Just because of the early substitute. And that was always going to happen at times, because there's so much firepower in this Chelsea team in terms of substitutes available. So for that reason, probably a bit of an overreaction on Nkunku, but an expected one, really. It's against Man City. I don't think maybe Enzo Maresca probably looked at it and thought, it's not the right game for Nkunku today. I don't think we have to overly panic. And we got the game Thursday night to give us a bit of an understanding. Perfect. Okay, so I'm running over. So we are going to wrap it up there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do recommend subscribing. There's no better time to do so, because tomorrow will be my transfer plan video. We have a few problems in the team, and we're going to discuss that. We're going to talk through my longer term plans as well, when I plan a wild card, and really get an understanding on what direction I want to take my team. So if you want to drop a like on the video and smash the subscribe button on the way out, always massively appreciated. Massive shout out to everybody for tuning in. Always love this on the evening streams, doing it on a school night, of course. So have a great one, guys. Take care, and I will see you in tomorrow's video, early doors, talking about